Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I'm very excited to share with you my botanical palette. I'm also going to share the process of how I put it together and how I choose the colors and what goes into that step by step. So first of all, originally I was thinking to actually film this entire process from start to end, but it was like a hazard on my desk. It literally was a mountain of tubes and it was just so kind of overwhelming with everything that I thought I will just start with a clean, fresh palette and explain to you how I got there. So first of all, I had a handful of colors that I knew I wanted to have in my botanical palette, and that would be those very pretty, unique pinks that are impossible to mix or very hard to mix, and I wanted to have them straight out of the tube. And also I wanted some of my favorite yellows and oranges and greens and blues. Also wanted to have some deep tones and some colors that are heavily granulated so that I could create interesting mixes and textures in my botanical art. Typically I don't do traditional botanical art, I do more of a contemporary botanical art style, so therefore I can totally use texture of the granulation and the pigment separation and have all that fun which would not be allowed in most traditional botanical art, because you want to have the smoothest watercolor effect that is possible to achieve in the traditional sense. So my palette therefore reflects a fun and playful way of creating watercolor botanical paintings. This is how I then went through everything, like my entire watercolor collections. All of these are tubes, however, there are some colors which I wish I could include in this palette, and therefore it would be actually difficult to stay within the 26 colors. I'll get to all the colors and everything in a second, but originally this palette holds 12 half pens, but in one row, but I managed to squeeze another one, and therefore I have 26. Potentially if I really wanted to, I could lift this entire thing and then put maybe a magnetized bottom at the bottom of the tin, and that would sort of create a flat surface, because this area here can be used as an extra mixing tray, and of course the wells create this kind of uneven ridges. So if I wanted to fill it all completely and have more colors, I could do that, but to be honest, I wanted to keep it within like a reasonable number of colors. So once I've done that and I picked out the colors, I then went ahead and swatched them out. As I did that, I needed then to narrow those colors and really think what I want to achieve, what sort of colors I'd like to use out of tube as they are, and which colors would be great to add in mixtures or mix with or enhance some of the colors or change them slightly. So here is pretty much the finalized stage of it. Once I have looked through and kind of created my ticks and crosses and decided what's going in, and then on the way I changed my mind a few times. This is the kind of the end result. The next stage from that comes, of course, the practical. So kind of playing around with the colors and deciding what colors are quite helpful to mix with. So for example, French ultramarine is never a color I enjoy on its own ever. I don't like this color. There's a specific French ultramarine that I like in art, but it has to be quite opaque. So it would have to be the acrylic, or it would have to be gouache. I don't like watercolor. So once I got to this part here and have minimized the colors, I still had a few colors that I wanted to kind of focus on. So Daniel Smith Transparent Red Oxide and Schmincke Transparent Sienna, both of them very similar in tone. However, the transparent red oxide is super granulating, so I kept that. Then we have Schmincke Transparent Red Deep and Daniel Smith Perylene Scarlet. Very similar colors, was hard to decide here. So I decided to create bigger swatches, but even when we look like that at them next to each other, they are pretty much identical. I would not be able to tell you like which is which if I didn't know. However, when you pull them out, these swatches are very, very useful to see the color in its like full glory. Like most of the other colors, I know what they do, so I don't need to do that. But in this type of situation, I can see that I'm pulling out more of a cool tone, and this is a warm tone. So we've got like a poppy red and a cherry red here. And so this is something important to know for your botanical art, because I don't like this color generally. I prefer this, like a warm tone. And then if I wanted to go for something more cherry-like, I always have these kind of pinks in here to use. Or I can also add permanent rose to pink things up a little bit. In this area here, we've got Daniel Smith Payne's Grey. Payne's Grey is a color I always like to use in the middle of the flowers, or as kind of little sprinkling of this very contrasting, almost black, but it's not black, and this is why I like it. Black is too harsh in illustrations for my liking, so Payne's Grey does a beautiful, beautiful job. Sodalite Genuine is a beautiful color. It's got more blue in there, and it's of course a super granulating color. So once I decided Payne's Grey is definitely a color I want to keep, I wanted it to be neutral. I didn't want to have too much blue in there, and I feel like, you know, because Sodalite Genuine is quite a pricey color, I didn't want it to be used in just little areas like that, because it wouldn't shine through. What I needed is a solid, deep, contrasting color, which I thought it would be a lot more affordable to have Payne's Grey without kind of wasting Sodalite Genuine for something like that. Sodalite Genuine looks beautiful when you're playing with it, when you're creating larger areas or with this color, so you can have the granulation come through and the pigment separation as well. Once I was done with deciding, I had my 26 colors, and in the end I think I took something else out. And so once I've taken this color out, I decided I wanted to add back in Iridescent Scarab Mystery, which is a gorgeous color. It's got a shimmer to it, but it has a blue, kind of like a blue tone shimmer, and it looks gorgeous as little accents. And I used to do it in one of my like summer botanical series, use it as little accents. Then of course, as I mentioned before, it is so important to play with colors and create your mixes. So then I would randomly take my yellows, my reds, and what I have in my blues. What I consider blues in my palette is the French Ultramarine. The Amazonite Genuine is more of a green turquoise, but I would still kind of navigate it within my blues. So I would use it in places of blues. And Cobalt Teal. So I just have 3 colors here. I then kind of swap them around to see what kind of colors I can get. Of course, using a green toned blue, it's not really a blue, but you know what I mean. Turquoise, it will neutralize colors, so it's quite useful to mix that into colors that I want to tone down slightly. But if I wanted to bring that brightness, I've got 2 blues, the Cobalt Teal and the French Ultramarine. So Ultramarine is great for deeper purples, and the Cobalt Teal is fantastic for really interesting mixes, and you can create beautiful, beautiful pigment separation with both colors, because the Cobalt Teal is super granulating and the French Ultramarine is super granulating. So for the final wheel, which we will do together, I have here Daniel Smith Aussie Red Gold, again with Cobalt Teal. I love my Cobalt Teal for mixtures. My Cobalt Teal is a teensy bit on a green side, so it's not a blue Cobalt Teal. It's a Cobalt Teal with a gorgeous turquoiseness of it. Like, this is what I think of a beautiful tropical island waters. It's just gorgeous. And then we have Paraline Scarlet for my red tone. Okay, so we will do that soon. But I thought what we will start with, I will just swatch out all the colors because I have changed the order as I place them into here. I want to swatch out basically the order that they come in. The sun is starting to creep in slowly, so I want to make sure I finish this before it fills my desk. I love filming in the morning after I do the school run, but I can't do it because of the sun. So let's start with the first color, and what I have is lemon yellow. They haven't fully dried yet, I only filled them up last night. So I'll try to do 13 colors here and 13 colors underneath. I love using these flat brushes for quicker swatches. They're very easy to just do a strip of color and that's it. Okay, so the first color is Schmincke Lemon Yellow. Second, Daniel Smith Nickel Azure Yellow. And then we have Core Quinacridone Gold. Then we have beautiful colors. I mean, some of these colors are my kind of favorites. Too much. I'm really surprised they're not dry. I mean, it's so hot in UK now. We have suddenly, the summer just started. We were like, it was super cold. No summer. May was cold. And then suddenly it just gone into like 3 days of 30. And it's been pretty like summery and warm, so I'm really surprised that they have not dried. Like some of them are as if they were just squeezed out. Okay, so after Aussie Red Gold we have Mijello Light Red. I really like Mijello's neutral colors. They're super vibrant and a lot of fun. Next one we have got, this is also a lot, so I'm just going to take some of it out. Daniel Smith Transparent Red Oxide. Then we have Schmincke Yellow Ochre. This is such a beautiful color for like, typically I would use it in portraiture, so for skin mixes. You can use it to kind of milk things down a little bit. I don't have, as you will notice, I don't have any pastel colors here. And the reason is I just thought I will use like a tube of white, either watercolor or gouache, to create pastels if I wanted to. So instead of filling up my palette with those colors, that's what I decided to do. So then I have those two metallics, which I'm going to swatch later because I don't want to contaminate the others. I'll need to kind of change the water. So let me go into the next pink. This is a very pretty pink, one of my all-time favorites. I got it a few years ago and it's just so unique. It's one of those colors you'd want to have. It's better out of tube though, so that be roughly here. It's a gorgeous light coral. Oh, so I didn't say the name for this one. Is Winsor Newton Rose Doré, and this is a Brown Mother, both by Winsor Newton. This is that red, really beautiful. So Daniel Smith Deep Scarlet. Oh no, so that's the Deep Scarlet here, this one here, and then now we're going to have the Daniel Smith Perylene Scarlet, the one that I mixed up here. So you can see they're different. Okay, so the first row is finished here. I'm going to do it as they are in the palette. So then I'm going to go into the metallics now. They're a bit awkward to use when they're like in this semi-dry state. As I was going through my watercolors, I also realized I ran out of a couple of things that I need to reorder, which is the nickel azo yellow. I want a big tube of it this time. And there were a couple more things. I tend to keep my empty tubes in a little dish, and that way I know which colors I love using. Okay, so this is really beautiful. Haven't used it in such a long time, but it's a gorgeous color. It's like a... There is a eyeshadow in MAC, which is exactly like this color. It's that beautiful kind of brown, reddish brown with a blue... Is it MAC Lab? Okay, next drawer we have got... This is, I believe, Cork Quinacridone Red Light. So that's my kind of coral in here. Just a bubblegum pink, really. Okay, next one. Alizarin Crimson. This is a classic. Another beautiful color. This is a what was it? I think it's the Winsor & Newton Permanent Rose. Next one is also Winsor & Newton, and this is a Rose Madder Genuine. Now, this is beautiful because it actually smells of roses. I love this watercolor. Oh my god, it just is like scented with rose. I mean, I'm not saying they scented it. I think because of its natural ingredients and the compound, it actually smells like roses. Beautiful. Not many people talk about this color, but yeah, as far as scented watercolors come, this is a good one. Okay, next one, we've got a dark color, I think this one is. Let's see. So this must be my Daniel Smith Naphthalite Maroon. Love it on its own for little accents, but also to deepen things down. It's a great color to have. So far you can see it's quite heavy on the neutrals and the pinks and the reds, which is what I like to paint. Okay, next one. This was definitely way too much because it's dioxazine purple, and dioxazine purple, again, I'm not sure I would use it on its own because it's like, it almost can look black, it's so intense. But it's a great color for mixtures, and in botanical art you need to have a purple for mixtures to neutralize things and tone them a bit more down. Okay, next one we've got Schmincke French Ultramarine. Dioxazine purple was by Etchr. Then we have Daniel Smith Amazonite Genuine. Beautiful color. If you love turquoises, it's really, really beautiful. It has a lovely pigment separation as well. Then we have, of course, one of my watercolors. Actually, two we have. So this is my own Alyona Creates Cobalt Teal. Now I designed it to be, like I said, slightly more greener version of all the cobalts that's out there, but it's not a green, it's definitely a teal. Also has a beautiful pigment separating property, so you'll see some blues pop out there. And then we have got second of my own colors, which is the chartreuse. And both of these colors are from my ultimate palette. And the reason I called it ultimate palette is because I created my favorite colors, which are, the entire palette is great for botanicals, by the way. I'll just show you quickly. It's this one here. At the moment, I don't have, I should put the bigger palettes on, but the small ones are available, so the half pans, and I've been really enjoying them. So the entire palette is great for botanical art, if you're interested. So yeah, I've created my own mixtures of the colors that I would use often in my botanical art or generally in my watercolor paintings. Just sort of my favorite mixture, so that I didn't need to mix them to how I like them to be. Next color we have a Gallo Fig Green, and this is on a milky side. So again, if I wanted to milk things down and add a little bit more of opacity, this is a color to have in the palette, along with that Schmincke Yellow Ochre. So both of them give me that milkiness that, you know, I can use. I'll show you later in the mixtures. It kind of makes mixtures look a little bit more flat and a little bit more dull, maybe. So it's a great color to use on its own as it is. Even then, it doesn't have that watercolor transparency to it. However, having said that, sometimes you want that in your mixtures. Sometimes you want to create those colors. Okay, next one we have got, this is the Michael Harding Moss Green. Really unique, beautiful color. I picked it over the Daniel Smith Olive Green because it has an interesting pigment separation. Sometimes it's more visible than other times, but it's really gorgeous. And then finally, my deepest tone is, of course, Payne's Grey. So let me show you a close-up of my palette. These are the gorgeous colors. I love what I see. Beautiful arrangements. None of those purples that I don't like, and none of the blues that I don't like. This is a very much customized palette to suit my preferences in color choices. And then this is the botanical color palette that I picked. Loads of colors to use as they are straight from the tube, but also some colors that allow for great mixes. Let me just show you the bigger ones as well. You can take a note if you wish. So here is the Daniel Smith Olive Green, which is beautiful, I like it, but the Moss Green has more interest to it, and it's not as muddy, not as deep, I think, as the Olive Green. So this is it for today. I will have to swatch the other wheel for next time, simply because the light situation is changing rapidly. But I hope you enjoyed some of the swatches, or all of the swatches from my new botanical palette. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.